in the world, but we are burdened with the oldest of leadership. They say that these are politicians who will always stand in the way of India becoming a great country. And they will stand in the way of India becoming a great country because these old leaders do not understand the aspirations of a young India. I think they're making a terrible mistake. And why am I confident that our aging leadership does not miss this message? I was at the World Economic Forum in November, December last year in Delhi, where a banker asked Pranab Mukherjee. Pranab was talking about India growing at about 6%. So she asked him, so how about 9%? When do you think we'll reach 9%? So he looked at her very paternally, smiled, and said, let's be realistic. Let's try and aim to somewhere where we can get. That was 3 months ago. 2 weeks ago, soon after the budget, when my colleague Raghav Behel asked him a question in an interview and said, sir, do you think you've set the ground for India consistently growing at 9% over the next 10 years or so? Mr. Mukherjee said, 9%? 9% is not enough. We need to grow 12% if Indians are to come out of poverty. So suddenly, he's become impatient with a 9% rate of growth, and he says we need 12%. So I say, collective aspiration will always force a change in leadership in a democracy. Leaders in an autocracy like China set the agenda. They show the way. But in a democracy, in a thriving democracy, leaders feel the pulse of the people. They're able to feel what you and I want, and then they move towards that. And the very experience of our leadership shows that they're not fools. They will, if they haven't already, quickly understand the wisdoms of the words used by a former finance minister as the title of his book. Good economics makes for good policy. Good economics makes for good politics, I'm sorry. They will realize this very, very soon. Because what the move from a $1 trillion economy to a $3 trillion economy will mean for India is, very crudely to put it, it will mean the middle classing of India. The middle class will become the Aam Aadmi. The middle class will become the vote bank that the politicians will have to go for. And the middle class is not going to be happy with subsidies and handouts. Subsidies and handouts are very, very important. They will always be needed to protect the people who live in the margins of society. Don't get me wrong. Government will have to invest there. It will have to invest in education. It will have to invest in health. It will have to invest in meeting the aspirations of rural India. But the aspirations of this large vote bank is going to be different. They will want enabling. They will want the government to set in motion an economy that will help them meet their aspirations. And the politician will realize that all of this can only be done through good economics. You're already seeing it in some states. 10 years ago, I used to live in Delhi. And believe me, summers in Delhi were a pain. You would drive home, you'd roll your window down, put your ear out and say, are the generators working? Which means only an air cooler is going to work, your AC is not going to work. I'd say, my God. A very difficult decision was taken, good in economics, people thought bad in politics, the privatization of the distribution system, and today Delhi's summers are bearable. And all of this has been done without too much investment in actual generation of power. They just got the private sector into distribution. Delhi's got clean air, it's got good roads, it's got great transport, and all of this is what's making Mr. Dixit come back into power almost for the third time running. You're seeing this in other states. You're seeing this in Gujarat. These states are not perfect, but we're getting there. You're seeing this in Bihar. Now, Mr. Nitish Kumar may not come back to power for a variety of other reasons. But believe me, the next chief minister who comes into Patna, if it's not Nitish, will not be able or allowed to take that state back to where it was before. Because India's aspirations have changed. India has clearly reached a point now where economic aspirations will always determine political leadership. I'm a big optimist. I'm an India bull. I know there'll be trouble along the way, but we'll get there in less than 10 years. Thank you for your patience. Are there any questions? Yeah. Infrastructure. I think, I frankly think we already grew at about 12% because we never take into account the black economy. So you add that, and we're already growing at 12, 14%. And I think the big leap is going to come in infrastructure. And I think we are at the cusp of a big boom there. Very often people tell us that if infrastructure Raghuram Rajan says that we are growing comfortably at 7, 8, 9%. Just get your infrastructure right and you grow at, it'll add 2 percentage points to your rates of growth. And the question a lot of people ask him is, and I've asked him the same question is, if getting an infrastructure right was so easy, because that's where reforms meet real politics, that's where you meet land reforms, you've got to meet all kinds of things at the ground level. If it was so easy, why hasn't it happened before? I think it didn't happen before because of money. Now we've got money. And when money comes in, the market just plays its own role. Let me just give you a small example, Raja, on what happened in Bombay. I used to drive to work on a road called Tulsi Pipe Road. I moved from Delhi. I was appalled at that road because you were driving through, you were driving past people who were living on the road. So I could drive past, I know at this time this guy will be brushing the teeth outside his thing. It was one of the most depressing sights in the world. Overnight, 2 years ago, all those slums vanished. There were no protests. There was no, we didn't have Shabana Azmi come and protest there because, and I mean this in a very nice sense, because all these people are not forced out. They moved out on their own. And why did they move out on their own? Because the builders found that the value of land had gone up so much that they could afford to offer these guys a good deal. So the markets just take over. The markets will just take over and bring about change so quickly that we'll be completely astounded. I'm an optimist. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.